So there are 3 ways you can do sauna that I can just toss out as like brief things. If you want to get a really big growth hormone release for sake of metabolism, fat loss, you're training really, really hard in jiu-jitsu and you want to recover, you don't want a sauna too often, because the study that identified this massive 16-fold increase in growth hormone, they had people do this. It's crazy. They got into, okay, temperatures are 80 to 100 degrees centigrade. So that's 176 degrees Fahrenheit to 212 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 to 30 minutes is the typical ranges that people work in these research studies. For maximum growth hormone release, don't do sauna more than once a week, but get into the sauna for 30 minutes, as hot as you can safely tolerate. So probably for you, that'll be 210 because I suspect you'll be on the high end of things. Then get out for 5 to 10 minutes. No cold exposure, get back in the sauna for 30 minutes. Then they had them do it again, out for 5 minutes, back for 30 minutes, out for 5 minutes, back for 3 minutes. They had them do 2 hours of sauna exposure to get that growth hormone release. Now, for the reduction in likelihood of dying of a cardiovascular event, stroke or otherwise, the more often you do sauna, the better. So if you look at all-cause mortality or death due to cardiovascular events, and you look at sauna use frequency using the same parameters, 80 to 100 degrees centigrade, 1 to 7 times per week, basically the more often you get into the sauna for 30 minutes across the week, so 30 minutes a day is better than 4 times a week. 4 times a week is better than 2 times a week, and 2 times a week is better than 1. And the reductions in mortality are really impressive. 27, if you get into a sauna the way I just described, not the 2 hours a day, but 30 minutes twice a week, or 3 times per week, you reduce the likelihood of dying of a cardiovascular event by 27%. If you do it 4 or more times per week, you reduce the probability of dying by 50% of a cardiovascular event. And in these studies, they rule out other things that people are doing. Smoking. They even ask them, do you live in an apartment? Are you in a happy relationship? Like, they evaluate other potentially confounding variables. Now, for people that don't have access to a sauna, a hot water bath or hot tub is going to be your next best bet. And if you don't have access to that, do like the wrestlers do, which is, put on 2 sets of sweats and a hoodie and a stocking cap and wrap yourself in plastics underneath all that and go for a run. But please, nobody die of hyperthermia. I mean, you can die of warming up too much.
So is it as stressful as an ice bath, for example?
Okay, great question. People always ask how cold to make the ice bath or the cold water or the shower. You want it to be uncomfortably cold, meaning you want to feel like I really want to get out, but you can safely stay in. And that's going to vary by person and experience with it.
Experience, yeah.
With the sauna, it's the same thing. How hot to make it? Well, don't kill yourself, obviously. Be smart. If you're pregnant, you shouldn't be doing this anyway. But it's very clear that what you need is the release of something called dynorphin. We have endorphin, which makes us feel good. It binds to these mu-opioid receptors in the body. You have dynorphin, which is the terrible feeling that you get when you're in really hot temperatures. It's also the terrible effect that alcoholics feel when they are in withdrawal. You feel agitated, you want to get out, it's really unpleasant. It's dynorphin binding to the so-called kappa opioid receptor. That's what you're trying to trigger. When you do that, a number of things happen. You set off heat shock proteins that go repair broken proteins and misfolded proteins. It also makes it so that later endorphin binds its receptor more strongly. So when you have this uncomfortable experience in the heat, you literally feel better in real life when pleasurable events come on, when you experience them. In the same way, I like to say this, that when you get into a cold ice bath or cold shower, the increase in epinephrine and dopamine is 200 to 300%. These are huge increases and they last many hours. This is shown because lately I've been getting a little bit of pushback on Twitter, which is, interesting place. People say, well, that's just in mice. No, all the studies I just referred to are all done in humans, men and women, fairly broad age ranges. So you want to be uncomfortable in the cold. You want to be uncomfortable in the heat. And this is why I'm not a big fan of infrared saunas, because they only go up to about 160, 170 degrees. Infrared light and far red light of all kinds has been shown to be beneficial for wound healing, acne, skin, eyes. There are even guys now putting on their testicles because it can increase testosterone and sperm production.
Yeah, hormone release.
But in terms of the sauna, you want that strong heat stimulus.
Yeah, and then that's when you crawl up to the 200 mark, right, and so on.
But I'll try and get into a sauna as often as I possibly can, which is, once or 3 times per week. And I try and do the cold exposure, shower or immersion, but early in the day because it really wakes you up. I sometimes enjoy seeing these social media posts where people will get into the ice bath and they'll look really stoic, like they're really tough. But actually, that's the wimpy way to go through it. When you get into cold water, if you stay very still, you develop a thermal sheath around you that you're warming yourself. The really bold way is to get in and continue to sift your arms and legs, and it ends up feeling miserably colder. And then when you get out, you'll notice a lot of people huddle, or they'll grab the towel. In general, that's me. I'll get into the sauna. But if you really want to stimulate the big increases in metabolism, you stand out there and you dry off with arms extended in open air. And as that water evaporates off you, it is really cold, but your body is forced to activate a number of the warming programs related to metabolism.